So it's 5 o'clock on a Friday. We got the shop all cleaned up-ish, and we thought, what better thing to do on a Friday afternoon when parts didn't show up to go racing than go ahead and put our SVO on the dyno now that it's got the Dominator on it. So we paused on this project for, hell, I bet it's been a month now since we took it to Ford Fest. We took it to Ford Fest, had a good time down there, had it run on Dominator, and we were gonna dyno it as soon as we got back. We've just been busy with a parking lot full of cars. So we're gonna go ahead and get this thing on the dyno and actually see what it does now that it has Dominator on it. We can control fuel, we can control timing, and see if it'll whack 200 horsepower. Get this old girl loaded up, but yeah, now it's running on the Holley, and it's been a lot better driving wise. The couple people that actually did get to drive the car other than me beforehand said how much better it's running and driving now. So Ford Fest went good. We had a lot of people see the first videos and the asking about the second, and can't do it one-handed. They were asking about a follow-up video as far as the car going on the dyno to see how much power it's making now, and we said we'd get to it right when we got back, and that was a complete lie. It's been like 3 or 4 weeks. Here's the setup as it sits right now. It's exactly the same as we had it on the last dyno video. It just changed in the sense we took the intake situation off with the mass airflow, and then we added a throttle body. So we added a V6 Ford throttle body drive-by-wire setup on it. We did a little adapter so that way it hooks all back up. But other than that, it's exactly the same as it was. Nothing is different. It's got the Holley on it now, so all the sensors are Holley, and it's still using a TFI as well. So still got the TFI hooked up, and that's what we're using for timing. We kind of neglected the install of the Holley Dominator on this thing as far as shooting video-wise. I have some stuff, but not a lot. It was hard to shoot video of it because it'd be done at random times with different guys in the shop working on it. Here's the drive-by-wire pedal configuration. It's using one of our Scram Speed billet blocks. You can kind of see it back there, and it's adapted to the V6 pedal, so that way we can use the V6 throttle body. So that's a Scram Speed product that we put on this thing. Same one as they use on the Coyote 5-liter swaps that they do on the Fox bodies. Got the Holley mounted in the passenger seat, underneath the actual passenger seat. That's where we have it mounted at right there, and all the main wires run right up along the side of there, go underneath the heater box. Here's the main relays right there. Okay, so we did a quick preliminary check on this thing, make sure it's good. We got the little twisty screw back on it. Right now it's making about 8 pounds of boost when we're going on the road. So we're gonna leave it right there. That was about what our baseline pull was. It was somewhere around 8 PSI, 9 PSI. So we're gonna leave it there. We checked everything out. We're running 20 degrees of total timing in it as it sits. Everything's set up the same as it was last time. So SV slow, got her on there. We were up to 5 grand this first time. I had to do a little recap just to remind myself, but last time we had it on here, the AFR was 15.5. It was really, really lean. It hated it. We didn't know what timing was. And at 8 PSI, it made 127 horsepower. So we're trying to top that essentially on this first pull, and then we'll turn the boost up and see if we can't bypass our 156 mark. So let's get some heat into it and see what it does. Last time we were pulling the SVO, we had no data, and now we have all the data. I think we only had air fuel, we had map. We were able to look at, a couple things, but we didn't know what air temp was. We didn't know, necessarily exactly what oil pressure was on pulls, coolant temp, all that kind of stuff. So now we're able to actually log it. It's pretty cool. So we're gonna see what it does in this first pull. All right, so first pull of the SVO, should be about 8 PSI of boost. Let's see what she does. See what it did here on that first pull. So it did 145 horsepower and 201 pound-feet of torque, and that should have been at 8 PSI of boost. This is all whacked, hold on. Okay, so that looks a little bit better. We can see it now. So It made peak horsepower at 144 at 4670. So it actually made horsepower a lot farther in the range this time. And AFR was nice. It was like, 12.5-ish, right around there. So air fuel was doing its job. It looked nice and clean. Boost was perfect. It hit 8 pounds of boost. And it drug it the whole time. So that was really good. Torque was obviously right off the hit. So 3,200 is where it hit peak torque and just kind of fell over after that. But other than that, that run was really clean. 8 pounds of boost, 145 horsepower. That's an 18 horsepower gain right there. So that's cool at 20 degrees of timing. All right, so instead of sending it full chooch, we're gonna go ahead and just add a couple more degrees to it. That was 20. We're gonna try to go ahead and do 23 at 8 pounds of boost and see what it likes. So we're gonna go ahead and send that, put a couple more degrees of timing into it, do the same pull again at 8 PSI and see what it likes. What'd it make?
151.2.
151.2? So we broke 150 horsepower on its sissy setting. It definitely liked a little bit of timing, at least at 8 PSI. It liked a little bit of timing. It made 203 pound-feet of torque. Carried out our AFR, which was 12.5. Again, looked good. Huh. So there's the overlay of the 2 passes. And yeah, horsepower was substantially higher throughout the range. Wow. So that's the horsepower number with 20 degrees of timing, and this is the horsepower curve with 23 degrees of timing. So it definitely likes the timing, and look at our torque curve. I mean, it's substantially higher than our old one. So it definitely liked the timing, at least at 8 PSI at boost. We'll see, we'll probably take it back down to 20 and cook it up to 12 or 15 PSI, but it definitely likes it down low. A little boosty line capped off, and we're gonna see if it'll reproduce the 12 or 13 pounds of boost and see what it does there. Everything looks good here. All right, here we go. I lifted. It sounded violent. It sounded really violent. Hold on. I don't know how much boost that was, but man, it sounded like it was cooking. I felt like it hit a lot of boost. Let's see what the log says. Where's our KPA at? Our KPA is the blue one. Holy hell. It says 251 KPA. I wasn't lying when I said it felt like it was 30 pounds of boost. What'd it make?
197 and 271 foot-pounds of torque.
Dear God. It says it hit 250 KPA somehow all of a sudden.
Well,
I don't know what just happened.
bro,
Yeah, so looking at it now, it actually didn't go lean. It went fat, honestly. So it was 9.0 when I got out of it. It was actually fat. It was compensating. The yellow line is our target and that blue line is our actual. So it's actually doing its job fine, but dear God, at the end of lifting, the green line's TPS, at the end of lifting, we're at 257 KPA. I mean, it felt like 30 pounds of boost. It was on a pass. You know, dear God,
awesome.
dude, it was
awesome.
it was pretty
I
cool.
was like, I'm out.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah, it was violent. We need to turn the chooch down just a little bit. So go ahead and I'd say go ahead and do the thumb screw and let's see if we can't get it to 12 or 15.
Yeah, it's back on. I tightened it all the way down, backed it off a couple times.
Okay, let's try that.
Yeah.
We got a real boost controller now.
Yeah, let's get rid of the Home Depot special.
Yeah, I don't think that one's superior enough anymore. We can't use that thing because it just got sent to the absolute moon. I have never heard the car sound like that. That thing was on kill.
3, 4, 5.
Okay, yeah, we'll back it out 5 turns on this new boost controller and see what it does, and hopefully it aims for 15 and not 22 like we were just saying. That was a little bit too spicy for the SVO. we'll get back to that later if everything goes good on this next pull. So our new boost controller kind of didn't work quite like we expected. It pretty much full sent it again, but I was looking at AFR, and AFR was actually really happy, so I stayed in it. Since we lost spark, we lost something, because it was making good power and then it just nosed over. Everything just died all of a sudden. So we're gonna turn the boost down and try it again. We finally got a good pull in this thing. That was right at 13 PSI. Everything looked good on the logger too. It was really happy. Our commanded and our AFR were perfect. It was like 12.2, it was a little fat, but that's fine. I'm trying to play it a little safe here. But our manifold air temp was only 106 on that one. It was compensating by taking out 8% fuel, so it wasn't bad. Actually 22% fuel is it would have taken out, so it wasn't bad. 190 kPa, so that was like our compare pull right there. So we made 182 horsepower, 255 pound-feet of torque, which was 13 PSI. To our previous one that was 13, 12-ish from our last pull, we gained 25 horsepower and we gained 45 pound-feet of torque with the Holley. Nothing else really was changed other than the AFR instead of 15.5 was 12.2. Timing was at 20 on that one. So, but the car liked it. I think we can turn it up and see what it'll do and make a little bit more power. See if we can get this thing to 200. That was 4 turns in and it made, what did it make? 13 PSI. So yeah, let's try 5. Let's see. So we give it a couple more turns on her. Actually 1 to be exact. So don't go too many. 1. Okay. Nice and happy too. Oh, 195. What it hit? 195. 195? Nice, we're getting there. We're getting there. 195.6 and 275. See what it looked like. What'd it make? Made 16 pounds of boost, 15.5 the whole way, dead flat. Boost curve looked beautiful. That was 16 PSI. Yeah, saying let's go ahead and go 6 turns. Hell with it. See what 6 turns does. Oh, she's loyal. She loved it. 208.3 horsepower, 290 pound-feet of torque. It hit on that pull. It was 19.5 PSI, and then kind of leveled out around 18.5, somewhere around there. So 18.5, almost 19 pounds of boost. So 6 turns is, we're gonna say 19 pounds of boost. But yeah, it loved it. Everything about it was really, really smooth. We only took it to 4,800 that time, but man, 208 horsepower. Looking at the log, everything looked really, really happy. She just didn't mind it one bit. So commanded is the yellow, and our blue right there is our actual, and it was great. So we're gonna go ahead and, I got the hood. We're gonna go ahead and cool her down and see if we can't get a little bit more out of her. She's just liking it so much that it'd be a shame to stop now because we don't know what it'd ever go to. But we're gonna pull 2 degrees of timing out of this bad girl. So that would make it 18 degrees of total timing in it. And then we're gonna put another half turn. So we'll have 6.5 turns and we'll see what that equals. Hopefully that gets us like 21. If that gets us to 21, then we'll be in good shape. Even 20. But maybe it'll make 220. Who knows? We're good. Alrighty. everything looks good on here. All right, here we go. It didn't like that pull nearly as much. It made a weird sound too. I don't know what that was all about. Well, I think we found the actual limits, so that's where our last bit of our log was, and the white is where technically it doesn't have any fuel left to give, and it didn't have a whole lot of fuel left to give, so it didn't go lean, but it definitely didn't like it. So it made about the same amount of power as the last one, and the log didn't look bad, but it just didn't look as good as the last couple. Okay, so it's day 2 of the SVO on the dyno. We kind of had to stop last night. The car was pretty hot. We were having a hard time getting it really cool between hits. It was getting later. People had to go home to their wives. People had to go shoot laps and cruise. It was Friday night and it was beautiful outside. So I said, let's go ahead and cool the car down. We'll try to make some pulls on day 2. We're not necessarily looking for a glory pull with the SVO right now. We're looking for a repetitive test pull. So we try to want to get, a nice boost level where it's happy at and everything, and then do like 3 back-to-back pulls on various, times. Make sure that the heat in the car is different each time. Just get a real good, baseline for future testings. I went ahead and turned it back down half a turn, so it's got 6 turns on the boost controller right now, and then it's back to 20 degrees of timing. I'm gonna try to simulate the last test that we had that was really good and see what happens. Here we go, let's try it again. No bells and whistles, but it felt a little smoother. So it duplicated it kind of on that pass. That was 202.8, 282. So it wasn't far from what we were at yesterday. We'll get the boost level and stuff, but. So here's the 2 graphs. They were both at 6 turns, and they made nearly identical boost. It was like right at like 18.5, spikes at 19, goes to 18.5. The last one made a little bit more horsepower than today for whatever reason. The air fuel is a little bit different, so that might have caused it. I think I did actually fatten it up a little bit more last night. So yeah, but that's the 2 back-to-back pulls. So I think I'm betting that's about the limit of the SVO is 18.5 pounds of boost. So now that I got a really good back-to-back test and pretty much know the limit of the SVO's boost level, I think I'm gonna go ahead and play around with timing on a couple pulls, and once I get timing played with a couple pulls, figure out what it likes for timing, then I'm just gonna make 3 back-to-back pulls, giving it like 15 minutes of rest between each pull, give it some cooling time, and just see if I can get an average out of it for you guys. So I'm just gonna make a bunch of pulls here, and then I'll let you know what the results are. After the first 2 pulls, all I can say is wow. This pull that I just did was a repetitive, 20 degrees of timing pull, and this one right here is 17 degrees. So it made a significant difference. You can see boost is the same, air fuel is pretty much the exact same. 3 degrees of timing. 3 degrees of timing netted us 19 horsepower in 23 pound-feet of torque. So it loves that timing. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a couple more degrees and see what she'll spit out. Yeah, that was a good one. It definitely liked the 23 for sure. Check this out. Look at the horsepower curve. That was 20 degrees. This is 23. Carried it out a lot farther, way smoother. Let me change it to RPM. Yeah, wow. It really liked that extra 3 degrees of timing for sure. AFR was still real nice. It's a little fat. It says 11.5 on the Holley, 11.6. It says 11.8 on the dyno. But yeah, torque didn't change much, but horsepower substantially. So Wow, good numbers. It made power. 214, 293. It said 300 on the dyno, but we'll call it 214, 215, 293. Wow, I like that timing. I guess we'll keep going on it. Make another timing change real quick and put 3 more degrees into it and see what it does then. 26 degrees in it now. Let's see how it does 26 degrees. Nope. Nope. Didn't like that, did it? So we found its happy spot. Lost horsepower on that one. That's good though, we found the happy spot. So here was the back-to-back test of the two. There was definitely a little bit too much timing in it. It didn't make any more power, and you can see that the curve was more gradual. Didn't go quite as high and then carry it out. It did carry it out in the very top end, which is interesting. But boost level was pretty much the exact same. The torque took a hit. This was the last pass, and that was the previous one at 23. This was 26. So I took about a degree out of it, 2 degrees out of it, right around there. So, but that's pretty much max. That's what she has in her right now. That's average. There's max. So yeah, so she makes 215, 300 pound-feet of torque, something close to that. Okay, I had to come back in the office to crunch these numbers for it to make any sense, as I had so many of them to go over. But from what I can see, when I did a back-to-back compared to the stock SVO ECU versus the Holley, we got the first baseline, which was the stock ECU in the SVO. It made 8 pounds of boost with no boost controller at all. We had no idea what the timing was, and it made 124 horsepower, 173 pound-feet of torque. That was our baseline test that we did. With the Holley, 8 pounds of boost, no boost controller, and we had timing set at 23 degrees of timing. It made 151 horsepower and 204 pound-feet of torque. Now that was 27 horsepower and 31 pound-feet of torque with an 18% horsepower gain, 15% torque gain on the Holley. So test for test, back to back, no differences at all in the setup other than the throttle bodies were the only real things we changed and taken off that vane air meter. The other variant on the baselines versus the Holley is on the baselines, our AFR was crazy lean, in the 14, 15, 16 AFR range. Our Holley, we were able to get that under control, net 12.5 for our Holley 1, Holley 2 base pulls. On 13 pounds of boost, which is what we had with the SVO on, kind of full tilt with the little manual boost controller. 13 pounds of boost, SVO ECU, didn't know what timing was. It made 156 horsepower and 210 pound-feet of torque. With the Holley at 13 pounds of boost, 20 degrees of timing, we were able to net 182 horsepower and 255 pound-feet of torque. That's a 26 horsepower gain, 45 pound-feet of torque gain, 14% horsepower, 18% pound-feet of torque. And that is the 2 baseline tests that we did, stock ECU versus Holley. So that's kind of our stock ECU versus Holley shootout on the SVO. And that's pretty impressive. I mean, the numbers are relatively low in the horsepower world, but for our little engine that could, I'd say that's some good numbers, For the second test that we did was how much horsepower can we get out of the setup. That is what these numbers are. And on those numbers, we have Holley 3, 4, and 5, and that was pretty much locking the timing out at 20 degrees and then making pulls at 16 pounds of boost, 19 pounds of boost, and 24 pounds of boost. It didn't like the 24 pounds of boost. We didn't get a number out of that, obviously. But on 16 pounds of boost, it made 196 horsepower, 276 pound-feet of torque. And on 19 pounds of boost with a Holley, 20 degrees of timing, it made 205 horsepower and 291 pound-feet of torque. And that was kind of the test that we did over and over as far as, what the boost level was it liked. We know it doesn't like anything for some reason right now more than 19, 20-ish. So 24 is what we've seen, but it didn't matter. It hated it. So we had an issue at 24. That was the big thing. We couldn't get anything out of it. So 19 is kind of what we did our base at for the following pulls to see what timing was, to get timing set correctly. And to get timing set correctly, we did it at 17, 20, 23, and 26 degrees. I'm well aware that 26 is way too much timing for this engine. But the happiest we had it was 23-ish degrees. A little bit less than 23 is actually what we're going to keep it at. But at 17 degrees of timing, 19 pounds of boost, it was 183, 268. 20 degrees of timing, 205, 291. 23 degrees of timing, 214, 293. And then 26 degrees of timing, which is way too much, we did 212, 276. So we obviously lost from these numbers here to these numbers here, meaning we are way beyond our timing limit. The car is unhappy. So we dialed it back a little bit, put it around 22 degrees of timing right now is where we're going to keep it at. But that's a pretty substantial gain. We had 22 horsepower from 3 degrees of timing on this jump here, and 23-ish pound-feet of torque. Pretty good. So it likes the timing from 17 to 20, so we know it's going in the right direction there. When we did our average of 3 poles, that was 19 pounds of boost, 23 degrees of timing, and it made 215, 295 average horsepower. So that's what we had. And as the baseline tests go, I noted that all the poles were at 100 degree intake air temps and 165 degree coolant with 15 minutes cool down between each pass, 93 octane, air filter on, manual boost controller at 6 turns from full loose. That was our standard. But that's the results. Sorry about the boring data crunch, but I geek out of this kind of stuff, and it was important that I have it all down so that way for future tests, I can know exactly what she produces and why, or if something changes, I can be able to tell, obviously. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed. 19 pounds of boost, 23 degrees of timing, 214 horsepower, 293 pound-feet of torque. If you take that number and go over our stock one at 124, 173, that's pretty impressive. That's 90 horsepower it's gained in an ECU swap and some boost, and it's lived so far. That is the number crunch on the SVO. I apologize in advance. I know that this video is going to be pretty lengthy and long. If you've lasted this long, thank you. It was just a lot of stuff to go over. It was kind of one of the really big tests we wanted to do on the SVO. But I think we did good. We got the information we needed. We did some really good tests. We have some solid data. We know why stuff did what it did. But yeah, I have to give Holley a quick shout out. Thank you for donating a Dominator ECU for our project. The car did make it to Ford Takeover and drove around and got noticed and was there at our booth. We have plans for this thing in the future. We're going to definitely do an exhaust on it. Definitely going to do a cam turbo upgrade in the future eventually. But I'll probably get on the SVO page and actually ask them, what do you guys think I should do next? Let me know what you guys think we should do next for our next test. We have a solid number now. What's next on the list, right? But keep us in mind on YouTube, like and subscribe to us, and we're gonna bring you more videos on this thing. We're just getting started on the SVO. It's a fun project, and we look forward to doing a bunch more videos. So till next time.